So tomorrow is patch 8.6.0 for PTB and Dead by Daylight, and they're starting to introduce some serious quality of life changes. What's going on, guys? My name is Pogesque, and I'm back talking about the new patch coming out very soon. I was going to make you guys a video talking a lot about what the devs are doing to improve the quality of life in DBD, but I'm going to scrap that video and kind of just put up a picture here somewhere on the screen, just kind of showing you their summary of what they're planning on doing for the game. Now, I did say in that video, which again I scrapped, that there are some concerning changes, and it was more towards the sides of the, anti-slugging, anti-camping, anti-tunneling. Not that it's necessarily a bad thing for the devs to do, but they gotta be careful with the decisions they make, because if they take stuff away from the killer and don't help them out, it's going to be a real struggle for them, and we're going to see maybe disconnects from the killer or worse. But anyway, I don't want to focus on that too much. I want to dive right into this dev update that I have on screen in front of me. It came out a few days ago, but it is talking about the update coming out tomorrow. Again, today is March 10th. It's coming out March 11th, around 11 a.m. EST. Of course, your time zone may vary, and they have some changes. This is the first wave of the quality of life improvements. And we're going to start off very quickly with the mending actions. So, they identified from survivors, maybe through surveys, through general feedback, that they think it is a good change to decrease the mending time for survivors. And I would agree. I think there's some things in Dead by Daylight that are quite boring. Even just doing gens and like the very simple skill checks that have remained the same for presumably 8 or so years. There hasn't been many changes in that regard. Something like mending, especially against the Legion, which that's all they do, feels pretty bad. So what they're looking to do is just take that down just a hair, and they want to make it only 10 seconds to self-mend and 6 seconds to help someone else mend, which is honestly really short. These times are super short. And I think, Legion and I'm trying to think of another example, maybe even Plague, if somebody had, Dead Hard or something. Many killers kind of rely on men. Deathslinger, I don't know how I put Plague in front of Deathslinger, but Deathslinger absolutely relies on mend. And he actually has add-ons to increase the mend time. Same with Legion, and I think what we're going to see with Legion is that's going to change how that works. Now, I was a little bit disappointed I didn't see any Deathslinger changes as a result, but again, we'll talk about that. Don't want to get ahead of myself here. So, they're looking to take away the time it takes just to sit there and to mend, which is fine. But you see stuff like this. Are the killer adjustments going to be enough? So let's go right on to the Legion part of things. And the Legion minor update, which I said this before in the past, then they say minor, it could be huge, and it's just because they tweaked the number, but that number could have a serious impact on how the game plays. So let's see. So for Legion, the fatigue time, when they hold their hands next to their eyeballs because they're just so tired out of nowhere, their Monster Energy drink just wore off in an instant, has now been decreased to 2.5 seconds, was 3, so that's pretty good. That's a good percentage reduction. The move speed while fatigued has been increased. That's a general good quality of life. You're not going to see them reaching survivors at loops probably. It's just going to feel better, whether you want to pivot to someone else or whatever you're doing with the increased fatigue movement speed. It's not going to get you any downs, most likely. It's just going to make it feel better. They've done that in the past with Legion. They've actually decreased. This is the second time, I believe, they've decreased the fatigue time. It used to be 5 seconds or something insane. Now it's about half what it used to be, which is crazy. The Feral Frenzy now lasts for 11 seconds without any modifiers. It used to be 10. That's all right. Cooldown's reduced to 15 seconds, was 20. That's a 25% reduction. That's pretty good. Movement speed earned during Feral Frenzy is now 0.24, was 0.2. That's pretty good too. I guess a 20% change right there. And they're going to adjust add-ons to compensate. I hope they didn't nerf the ones that increase movement speed, stuff like that. I think when you add stuff base kit, especially after nerfing their whole kit, whole idea of a kit, which is mend, they have to be careful. You don't want to nerf add-ons just because it's base kit and you nerf how they function. Imagine they add whatever to the dying state, you can recover from the dying state like they wanted to, unbreakable base kit. Twins would probably be actual garbage if they didn't get something to compensate for, somebody being put in the dying state and you can't pick them up instantly. Why would you want to be punished by the game if there's no way to compensate? So I'm a little off topic on that, but you can read their little note here as I've been rambling away. So we're going to go ahead and scroll over that. Overall, I'd say in summary, it seems all right. I think they could probably do more for how quick it's going to be for survivors to get out of Mend. Legion kind of relies on that, and Deathslinger too, but I think they see Deathslinger as strong enough, which I don't think he's weak by any means, but I think he could have got a little something, maybe like slightly faster reload speed, or like maybe he gets a slightly increased Mend time for whatever reason, because he's not shooting people rapidly with his gun, so just something for him. So Xenomorph, this change. All right, let's just talk about it first. Let's talk about it. So increased tail attack charge time to 0.35 was 0.2. I think this is a nerf. It's hard to tell. It seems like it takes longer to charge. Sometimes when they say stuff like that, it means it charges faster. Like it's like a token system. The charge time, it builds up faster. But I think that's a nerf. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So it's kind of a shame, but it is what it is. They explain it down below what they think the reason for that is. They've increased the charge sound for survivors, which is fine. Hearing that of the tail whipping back, I think that's good. A little more outplay potential for them. Reduced missed attack cooldown time to 2.5 was 3 seconds. That's good. I think that's really good, even though they're nerfing the time it takes to do the windup. It gives them a little bit more chance to dodge, and it also helps the killer if they miss. So, because they're more likely to miss now that survivors are more aware. So, increase the killer instinct range when exiting a tunnel to 60 meters was 12. Fantastic. I get a 25% change. That's really good. I like to see it. Decrease the time it takes to get out of a tunnel to 1.5 was 2.25. That's pretty darn big, guys. That's like 30-35%. If my math is mathing, that's pretty good. You like to see those quality of life changes, and I wonder how that impacts, exiting a tunnel near a hooked survivor. I wonder if they got increased by 35% as well, but it doesn't look like it says that, so who's to say? Now, these changes down below are a bit disheartening. I'm just going to read them first, and I'll use my comments second. Increase the amount of time needed to burn the Xenomorph out of crawler mode to 175 was 100. Sounds good, right? 75% more endurance to the flame. Here's the problem. Increased delay before Xenomorph heat starts to dissipate to 15 seconds was 1 second. Basically, in layman's terms, you cannot lose any heat for 15 consecutive seconds without any flamethrowers touching you. As soon as one more flame touches you, it goes right back to 15. With how many turret survivors can have, and especially if they stack turrets, crawler mode is going to basically be kicked out instantly. I do think that, what was it, the helmet, the green helmet add-on was so common. Maybe they wanted to get rid of that being like the only add-on people ever ran. Maybe the one that made them mangled with the tail attack too. Those were the two big ones. And then additionally, decreases Xenomorph heat dissipation to 2 charges a second was 25. So it used to only, it used to take a second for the heat to wear off, and then only 4 seconds from full heat to 0, if they had any. And that's pretty bad. So it's 175 now, and it goes down to a second after a 15-second delay. You can almost guarantee that a flamethrower is going to knock you out of crawler mode. It's going to keep you out of crawler mode until you slowly get it back. So I think this is a pretty bad change. It's one of those ones where they can't really compensate for it. You've effectively, made the flamethrowers an absolute counter instead of being something that could be a good counter. I could see maybe, making the dissipation rate a little slower, like 12.5 or something, halving it. No, they went all the way. It's a mere fraction, what is that, like 12? That's 12.5 times slower, actually. Instead of making it half, it's 12.5 times slower, and it's 15 times longer to get out of your heat dissipation buffer period. I think they this is one of those changes where the devs try to make a drastic change that's going to permanently alter how the killer feels. Typically, how the killer feels good, and they give them some kind of like small numbers, like minor update at the top. They don't understand how serious this is going to be for people who play Alien, and there's not that many people who play Alien anyways. So I can only hope they're going to reconsider these numbers by the time this goes live tomorrow on the PTB. I say live, but in the PTB tomorrow when they push it out. Otherwise, it seems good, but man, the turrets are going to be an absolute counter, and maybe that's what survivors have complained about, and they're going to get that. So we'll see. I think the good thing about PTB is people can test it, and hopefully the devs listen and listen well for good constructive feedback. I've said about the perks before, or the ability before I even talked about the character. So Chucky, the good guy, reduced Hidey Ho mode cooldown to 12 seconds was 14, so they're kind of reverting a nerf they were tossing back and forth for a while with Chucky after he got Giga nerfed, and they reduced the time to reach a max speed at the start of Slice and Dice and after Scamper. Okay, so one thing to know about Chucky, right? He used to be able to press his ability, go stealth, and then do a very quick vault. That used to be his scamper over or scamper under. Now his scamper is strictly in Slice and Dice, right? When he's running, he dashes quickly under a pallet or over a vault. And it is quite quick. They made the speed of the vaulting very fast. But the problem is, he's still screaming the whole time. He's still stuck in the, Oni dash where he's very limited in how he moves. His dash is good because when you let go of the attack button is when he'll release the swing. So if somebody's body blocking you, you can slide off of them and then hit the survivor you're trying to hit. So he has some good feeling mechanics, but they put it only in the dash. So he's very one-dimensional, which is unfortunate. And I think people just kind of see Chucky, he's small. He's a problem for some people. But instead of nerfing him from a, very cognitive and rational standpoint, it's from an emotional standpoint, because they just don't like Chucky, right? They're sick of seeing him in their games. They're sick of not seeing him because he's so tiny. Instead of kind of getting better and like knowing his cues, knowing what his footsteps look like, stuff like that. It's not the first time we've seen emotional balancing in this game. Devs are pretty quick to react to maybe even review bombings of certain chapters of the game to undo or revert or nerf certain killers. Typically, it's not a survivor nerf that people rally for. It's for killers because there is typically more survivors. So I do think this is a little better, but I think the damage has already been done unless they want to revert him to an old state. This is pretty big. It's a bit disappointing for some killers, but good for others. Billy and Blight, their turret radius is now going to be 40, which Wesker's is also 40, and because it used to be normal, 32. And I think the reason why they're doing this is because they're so darn fast. And typically, you won't hear the 32-meter terror radius. They will be at 8 before you even realize what's happening to you. I don't think it's bad. I think it's bad in the sense that, when they walk around, they're going to be much weaker and much more easily detectable, but terror radius fluctuations for like very loud, obvious characters isn't that bad. You can even give Nemesis a 40-meter terror radius, and he's slow. He's really slow. He has no speed ups at all. It's funny enough, he has undetectable as an add-on, but he has that clomp and footsteps, so I think fast killers having a higher terror radius is fine. I don't know. I always just kind of like hesitate towards these changes, but I think overall it's fine. Especially because the Pig, Ghostface, and Skull Merchant, for some reason, are getting their terror radiuses reduced to 24 meters, was 32. Skull Merchant's a weird one. She still needs to rework. She's going to be, unfortunately, bad until she gets reworked, because they gutted her. But Pig getting a buff and Ghostface getting another buff is insane, because they're typically very ignored characters. They're almost novelty characters, right? They're not good. They're fun. But they're not fun to be strong. They're fun because you can boop the snoot or teabag as Ghostface, but in like a charming way. And they're very strange characters, right? They both actually can teabag. Pig is very much slow compared to Ghostface, but they're more aesthetically charming characters, so they're not strong. And Skull Merchant is in her own category of just bad, unfortunately. Here's a big one. Match surrender. So they actually changed the conditions for killer instead of it just being, all survivors are bots. They actually added something more for killer, and we'll get to that. So if one of the following conditions is met, the surrender option will become available on the match details screen. So for survivor, when all remaining survivors are bots, the killer can surrender without a disconnect penalty. In addition to that, which they didn't do the first time around, when no generator has been completed for 10 consecutive minutes, aka the survivors hiding, they're over obsessively hiding, the killer can disconnect without a disconnection penalty. Or sorry, surrender, excuse me. It's basically the same thing, but it's just a polite way of saying it. And then for survivor, when all other survivors are bots, the survivor can surrender without a disconnect penalty. So if you have a Swift who's just, they didn't get their way, they didn't get their hand held, and the killer is dominating them, they'll all leave, and you can leave too. You don't have to put yourself in that game, and the killer will win, presumably, right? Well, they can surrender too, I guess. And so all survivors are in the dying state. The survivor can surrender without a disconnection penalty. So anti-slug. I think I was so afraid of the anti-slugging problem where they're going to, just make it so easy for survivors to get up or free, unbreakable. If you're getting slugged just because somebody's being a turd, you can just leave. You can collect your points you've gotten to this point and leave. And I think that's good. I also think it's good if, survivors are obsessively hiding and they're not doing gens. There's not any progression being made. You can't be held hostage. You can leave. Now, could somebody do a gen in 9 minutes, not 59 seconds? Yeah. And I think that would also be a pretty bad thing for killer, because then they would have to wait up to 40 minutes if everybody hit. Let's say you got sniped, right? You're a streamer and you got sniped by this survivor with friends who just wants to hide. You have no detection perks whatsoever because you're so afraid of your gens going. So you have gen defense perks. Yeah, you might be waiting up to 50 minutes, and it would be allowed by the game. It would be allowed. So we'll see how it goes. I'm glad to see they're adding stuff like this. They're kind of trying to counter the toxic community, or maybe the unlikable side of the game where you're just not having fun. And they want to focus on you having fun because you give them money. You know what I mean? So Forsaken Boneyard, right? Eerie of Crows. So they've expanded the Boneyard realm with a shack-focused map, updated the new map tiles to improve navigation. And I've seen talk about the overall map size being smaller. And that might be true. I don't know necessarily from a couple screenshots. It does look a bit smaller, I will say, but this map has always been somewhat narrow and very long. So it's almost like a big hall, right? It's Opera Hall. It's super long. It's super hard for killers who are very slow, like Nemesis, Trapper, to get to the other side of the map and protect it, push gens, chase survivors, that kind of thing. So if they made it more narrow and they kept it just as long, it's not going to fix anything. If anything, it's to make it, more obnoxious for survivors to do anything at one end of the map. It's going to be almost like that, the Auto Haven map, where it's like that way. It's almost kind of like a dumbbell. It's wide on either end and it's long in the middle. So you're going to kind of have that where it feels... It feels like, everything's so far away and you can't defend it as a slow M1 killer. So, it looks nice, I will say. The tiles look the same. They're actually starting to add some of these double palettes. I don't like the double palettes. But other than that, even this looks different. It's usually had a palette here and a small loop, but they're changing it up a little bit. They're putting a fountain here, which does nothing for survivors, which is fine by me. This map is quite strong for survivors, and regardless, they're very quiet. So they're looking to change up, add variations like they did with. So they're looking to basically do variations like they did with. Oh my God, what is it? Ormond, yeah. So they're basically looking to do what they did with Ormond and add variations, but keep the map generally the same, which is cool. I think that's good. They need to make these realms more interesting. So now on to perk updates. For survivors first, quick and quiet. They decreased the cooldown to 15 seconds. Overall was 20. That's pretty good for them. Quick and quiet's a pretty... I'd say it's a pretty skillful, stealthy perk. You won't see, it's not overpowered, but it's definitely not weak at the same time. Deception. This is a perk that was really popular when it came out, but now it's been overpowered by many other perks. So when you fake going into a locker, you leave no scratch marks for 5 seconds, which is good, instead of 3, and the cooldown is only 15 seconds instead of 20. So You're going to see this with some of these perks. These are just relatively unused perks that aren't necessarily strong, but they also are pretty good. And they're going to push them up into a more viable standpoint. Funny enough, Dance With Me is the vault version of Deception, where you, when you vault, you leave no scratch marks afterwards. You still make the loud noise notification, just like you would with Deception, but you're going to keep moving, and they're not going to know where you are if they don't directly see you. This is actually a pretty popular perk, despite it's not seeming very good, and making it a little bit stronger with the lower cooldown and the longer scratch mark high duration is it's going to be good. And Red Herring, I love this perk. It's dumb. Honestly, because Survivor, some killers just get so numb when it comes to loud noise notifications, but I love using it anyway, and the fact that they really buffed it here is great. So it only takes 1 second for you to sit there, repair a gen, and then the cooldown's only 15 seconds instead of 40. It's crazy that it was even 40. I guess you could annoy more killers with this, but I don't think you will. I think it could even maybe have some deceptive way of making sure they knew it was a gen and not just some random pebble. Could be cool, because I don't know. I think all of the misdeception, or misdirection, the deception perks are interesting. I think it's kind of fun. It's a fun way to kind of mess with the killer, and it's not obnoxious or like stunning the killer 10,000 times or whatever. It's not annoying in that way. So, killer perks. So knockout completely changed. And I think they wanted to address the slug meta without having to do some base game changes this way by basically removing it from the game. It was a weird perk to have anyway. I think it's fine to have it go. When a survivor drops a pallet, they move 6 meters away within 6 seconds. They'll gain a 5% hindered effect for up to 5 seconds. So people said even though the survivors are happy, this is a perk. Obviously, it's no longer the slug perk it used to be. But people who pre-drop pallets and just run away instantly are going to get punished. I think they can make it a little bit stronger, maybe like 7.5%. And you could even go 10 seconds and give it a cooldown, because that 5% most likely will not guarantee you, a down. It might, especially those like back-to-back loops. This is going to be an absolutely useless perk. Well, it won't even kick in actually. It won't even kick in because they didn't go 6 meters away yet. So, but it's cool because people who loop the pallet will be fine. I think some longer loops though will trigger this perk, which is kind of funny. But we'll see how it works out. So I'm excited to see that change as it comes in. So Alien Instinct, kind of an unused perk. It's the one where the alien's like this, it's going to affect the furthest away survivor, I believe what it was, injured survivor. Increases the aura reveal duration to 8 seconds, and they increase the duration of Oblivious up to 60 seconds, was 20. So that's a really good change on that. That perk also kind of stunk anyway, so if they want to make more perks relevant, that's what they got to do. So Hysteria surprisingly got a buff, which is a good perk. Up to 40 seconds of Oblivious was 30, decreases the cooldown to 20 seconds. So anytime a survivor is injured, all other injured survivors, which would be really good for like Plague, become Oblivious for now up to 40 seconds. So I think Stealth Plague, maybe even Stealth Legion, especially after Legion buffs after the mending stuff got changed, you're going to see more Hysteria, and it's going to be more mind games. You're going to have to be more aware, so that's going to be the kicker. Deathbound, they've been tweaking this perk a lot lately. To shorten the range at which this perk activates to 4 meters was 8. So if you don't know what this is, basically if you leave, they're doing all of Oblivious changes in this patch, whether they mean to say that or not. But if you go further than 4 meters away from the person who just healed you, you will be Oblivious. So if you heal somebody to full and you go for 4 meters away, it'll make you Oblivious. You won't know where the killer is unless you're near the survivor. So it kind of forces you to stick together, which could be bad. And it's pretty cool that they have a perk like that. I just think it could do a little more, but who knows. Nemesis increased their aura reveal duration to 8 seconds, was 4. This is good just because Nemesis has many other values, right? Like changing the obsession when somebody stuns you in any way, and having more of an aura reveal is going to be good, especially if you combine it with lethal. You're going to have 10 seconds. I was right the first time. 10 seconds of an aura reveal, which is totally fine. So it looks to be the end of it. On the Reddit version, I'll even post the full behavior blog post. If anything, I meant to do that instead of this one. I think there's going to be a lot of good that's going to come from this. I think there's going to be some bad. I think the alien stuff's going to be a bit rough. I kind of want to play Alien when this comes out and see if they're really that bad. And we'll go from there. I think overall, when we focus on quality of life of the game, especially with a new patch, a new chapter, Five Nights at Freddy's coming out this summer. The game is not ready yet. People have kind of identified that. That's all on social media, Twitter especially. People were saying, is this game really ready for, more releases, more content, more big name games, right? Coming to DVD with their licenses and chapters. Is it ready to bring those people? And those people are they gonna be hyped, right? And the answer right now, I think, is no. And I think even the devs kind of realize it too. They're like, shoot, we got a big release coming up this summer. We need this game to be good. People are telling us it's not, and we need to get there so they stay hooked. They buy more Fong Min skins, they buy more Meg skins, and they buy all the DLCs, and we make millions. But obviously, any business you should turn a profit. That's the goal, despite what product you make, unless you're a nonprofit. But so yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think. I try to be as open and honest as possible how I feel. I'm not ever going to sugarcoat anything. So if you enjoy that type of vibe and you enjoy what I'm putting out for you guys, make sure to hit that like button down below. And of course, leave a comment. Let me know what you think of patch 8.6.0 of PTB coming out. Let me know what you think in the comments. Also, if you think they're going to change any of these things for the full release of the game, they're going to kind of go back on some things. I hope they kind of revert some of the alien stuff. But also, if you could, subscribe to the channel if you like what you see. Of course, that's all up to you. So, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.